Dear first grade students, welcome to the third online lecture of Principles of Economics course, where we will continue explaining Chapter 2. Well, last week we started Chapter 2 and we have discussed the Production Possibility Frontier or the PPF and explained the idea of the trade-off that appear along the curve, and the trade-off means that to increase the production of a certain commodity, we must give up some of the other commodity. We have also explained the meaning of the opportunity cost and how can we use the PPF to compute the opportunity cost. We have also used the PPF to explain the idea of production efficiency, and we covered the difference between the production possibilities and consumer preferences, and also how we can use the available resources to satisfy these preferences or how to achieve the efficient allocation of resources. The final point that we have discussed in the interactive lecture was how our choices today affects our ability to produce in the future. In other words, we explained how current production decisions may lead to expand our future abilities by achieving economic growth. And we have said that there are some costs associated with economic growth. These costs include to increase or to enhance economic growth, we need to sacrifice current consumption to enjoy higher level of production and consumption in the future. Well, these are the learning outcomes of Chapter 2, and today we will focus on point 6. So we will explain how specialization and trade expand the production possibilities, or in other words, we will explain the gain from trade. The idea is that people can produce all goods and services that they need to consume, or they can produce only one good or a few number of goods and then trade with others. So now in this lecture we will explain how specialization in producing only one good or few goods and then exchanging these goods with others will bring more gain for the society. Okay, now let's explain the idea of gains from trade. As I said, you can either produce all what you need to consume, and in this case, you would achieve what is known as self-sufficiency, or you can specialize in doing only one activity that you can perform well at, and then trade your production with others. Then, to explain how individuals specialize in doing certain activities, let's first compare between two concepts, which are absolute advantage and comparative advantage. So we can say that a person has a comparative advantage in an activity if that person can perform this activity at a lower opportunity cost than others. And the reason why people have different opportunity cost in different activities is that they have different abilities. So as we have seen earlier in this chapter, for example, one person may be an excellent teacher but a bad lawyer. Also, different factors of production have different abilities to produce, as we have explained. For example, one plot of land is fertile but has no minerals, and another plot maybe have an outstanding view but infertile. So as we have explained, because ability and resources vary from one person to another, people have different opportunity cost of producing different goods. And these differences in opportunity costs are the source of comparative advantage. So, what about the absolute advantage? We can say that a person has an absolute advantage if the person is more productive than others in doing all activities. So this means that this person can outperform others in many activities or even in all activities. To summarize, this absolute advantage involves comparing productivities, while comparative advantage involves comparing the opportunity cost. So now let's clarify this by having this example. Now, to explain the difference between absolute advantage and comparative advantage, assume that we have two persons called Liz and Joe. As shown in table point 1, here this is the production possibilities of Liz in producing two goods, which are smoothies and salads. As shown in the table, it takes 2 minutes for her to produce 1 unit of each good. So um, in 1 hour, she can produce 30 smoothies or 30 salads as shown here. So this table gives us her production abilities to produce both commodities. So we said that she can produce equal quantities of both commodities using the same time. So we can conclude that she has an absolute advantage in doing both activity because she can perform well or she's very productive in doing both activities. Now, what about the comparative advantage? So if we assume that her customers buy salads and smoothies in equal numbers, this means that she will divide her time for producing the two commodities. So in 1 hour, she can produce 15 units of each commodities. So as I have said, comparative advantage is related to computing the opportunity cost. So we need to compare their opportunity cost of producing both goods, where the person with a lower opportunity cost will have a comparative advantage in this good and must specialize in producing this good. So now let's see the opportunity cost of Liz if she decided to increase an additional unit of smoothies. So to increase a smoothie by an additional unit, this means that she must decrease the production of salad by 1 unit. So we can say that her opportunity cost of producing one smoothie is 1 salad. Similarly, if she wants to increase the production of salads by 1 unit, she needs to decrease her production of the other commodity. So the opportunity cost of producing 1 salad is 1 smoothie. So based on that, this is her opportunity cost in producing both commodities. Um, in this example, the second person is called Joe, who run another smoothie bar. And as we can see in the table, he produces the same commodities. It takes 10 minutes for him to produce only 1 unit of smoothies, which means that in 1 hour he can produce only 6 units. On the other hand, he can produce one salad in 2 minutes, which means that in 1 hour he can produce 30 salads. Since he is more productive in making salads compared to making smoothies, so he has no absolute advantage. What about the comparative advantage? As we have mentioned before, we need to compare the opportunity cost to see which of them has a comparative advantage. So, as we have done with Liz, let's compute Joe's opportunity cost. So, if he divided his time between the two commodities, then he can spend 10 minutes to make salads, and in this case, he will make 5 salads, and he will use the other 50 minutes to make a smoothie, which means that he will prepare 5 units of smoothies. This means that in 1 hour he can produce 5 units of each commodity. So now let's see his opportunity cost if he decides to increase the production of salads by 1 unit, and if he wants to increase the production of a smoothie by 1 unit. If he wants to increase the production of a smoothie, then he has to sacrifice 5 units of salads to increase the production of a smoothie by just 1 unit. So we can say that his opportunity cost of producing one smoothie is 5 salads. On the other hand, if he wants to increase the production of salad by 1 unit, he must give up producing 1/5 smoothie, which means that his opportunity cost of producing one salad is 1/5 smoothie. As we have seen, Liz has an absolute advantage in producing both commodities, while Joe doesn't have an absolute advantage. And now, to see which of them has a comparative advantage in making which commodity, we need to compare their opportunity costs. To find the good in which Liz has a comparative advantage, we need to compare her opportunity cost with Joe's opportunity cost. As we have seen earlier, Liz's opportunity cost of a smoothie is 1 salad, while Joe's opportunity cost of one smoothie is 5 salads. This means that her opportunity cost is lower than Joe, which means that she has a comparative advantage in producing smoothies. Now let's see if Joe has a comparative advantage. As we have seen, his opportunity cost of one salad equal 1/5 smoothie, while Liz's opportunity cost of one salad is one smoothie. This means that his opportunity cost of salad is lower than Liz. So we can say that Joe has a comparative advantage in producing salads. And based on that, if each of them specialize in producing the good that he or she enjoys a comparative advantage as, and then trade with other, each of them will be better off, as we will see now. As mentioned before, if they produce both commodities, then they will need to divide their time to produce both commodities. So in this case, Liz can produce 15 units of each commodity, and Joe can produce 5 units of each commodity. Now let's see how both persons will benefit from specialization in production and exchanging the production with others. So, as I said, each of them should specialize in producing the good with comparative advantage. So if Liz specializes in making smoothies, then she will be able to produce 30 units of smoothie and of course 0 units of salads, and she will choose smoothie because she has a comparative advantage in producing it, as we have explained earlier. On the other hand, Joe will specialize in producing the good which he has a comparative advantage at, which is salads, so he will be able to produce 30 units of salads and the 0 units of smoothie. Now let's see how trade will be beneficial for both persons. As we have seen, Liz will specialize in producing smoothie, so she will produce 30 units, while Joe will specialize in producing salads, so he can produce 30 units of salads. So now let's see how trade will happen. So as we can see here, Liz will keep 20 units of smoothie for herself, and then trade 10 with Joe, so she will sell 10 units of smoothie and Joe will buy them. On the other hand, Joe will keep 10 units of salads for himself, and then he will sell 20 units of salads, and these 20 units will be purchased by Liz. So what happens after trade is that Liz has 20 units of each commodity, while Joe has 10 units of each commodity. So now, to compute the gains from trade, let's compare the situation before and after trade. Before trade, as we have seen earlier, here Liz has 15 units of each commodity, but now she has 20. So this means that she gains 5 units of each commodity, as we can see here. Concerning Joe, before trade, he has only 5 units of each commodity, but now he has 10 of each commodity, which means that his gain from trade is 5 units more of each commodity. Now, this slide and the next one summarize the gain from trades as I have just explained. This is the end of this lecture, where we have covered the difference between absolute advantage and comparative advantage. And we said that the person will have an absolute advantage if he is more productive than others in all activities or in many activities, which means that absolute advantage involves comparing productivities or the production per hour for each person, while comparative advantage involves comparing the opportunity cost of different people. And as we have seen, that even if the person has an absolute advantage in all activities, such as Liz, she can still benefit from specialization and producing the good that lowers her opportunity cost, and then exchange her production with others. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.